Who represents the greatest threat to our cause?
Albus Dumbledore.
It was wonderful to have the opportunity to find the young Dumbledore. When we started talking about actors, I had some actors in mind, and I shared those ideas with Jo. And she said, no, David, you're forgetting this is the young Dumbledore. He's a much different animal to the guy we see in Harry Potter. He's still very charming, and he's also got a glint in the eye, and he's witty and kind of mischievous.
The Dumbledore we meet here is gifted, but he is troubled. So we're not looking for the grandee who sweeps into the room.
Someone who has a maturity, who can stand face to face with Johnny Depp and with Eddie Redmayne and not be, acted off the screen. It's a potpourri of many, many different qualities that we're trying to find.
I saw the first Fantastic Beasts, and I think I made an inquiry after seeing it quite quickly, thinking, where else is this going to go, and what are the other characters? Whether that stoked any curiosity from their part, I don't know, but I got a call early on saying that they were looking to cast a young Dumbledore, and I got involved in the process that required. It was a very good day when I got the phone call saying that they wanted me to play him, and obviously my kids are thrilled.
Jude has many qualities that are very Dumbledore-ish. First of all, he's quite utterly charming. He's got a twinkle. But more than anything, he has a grace.
So when I met Jude, we had this very intense meeting, just the two of us, where I basically told him everything about Dumbledore that I've ever known, but not told anyone else, literally. I've never told anyone some of the things I told Jude. I really thought it was important that from the moment we see him on screen, he knows the burden that character is carrying. Because without that knowledge, Jude is playing someone who appears to be playing games with people's lives, and that's not who Dumbledore is. He doesn't want to hurt or damage anyone.
She gave me hours of her time and filled me in on where she saw him sitting in this universe. And for an actor preparing, that was an incredible opportunity, because he's not just a wonderfully iconic character, but he's also, just from a purely acting perspective, he's a really rich, complicated, multi-layered, multifaceted character. Initially, I thought I was going to steer clear of going back and watching either Richard Harris or Michael Gambon, but I just couldn't resist. First of all, it seemed like such an obvious opportunity to watch all the films again, which was really fun. And also, I just wanted to see if there was anything I could eke from them. I love the peaceful wisdom and the capacity to sit back knowing that what will be, will be. They talk about Dumbledore being this hugely powerful wizard, and I always imagine he has great fun with magic, but to him it's so effortless. I think he takes it very seriously, but I think he enjoys it with a playfulness and youthfulness, a sparkle.
A lot. Earwax.
Even though, as I said, it was very important to all of us that we weren't creating that Dumbledore, we were creating a man who was going to become that Dumbledore.
When I talked to David about Dumbledore, we wanted him to be kind of young, hopeful, the kind of professor that the kids all loved. David and Jude and I, had a discussion about color, the early Dumbledores, and sort of plummy color tones, which didn't seem right for real clothes. So we found beautiful kind of heathery grays and sort of softer colors, softer fabrics and textures that people want to touch and that are approachable.
There was a sense of the dandy, there was a sense of a man who enjoyed a certain flair to his dress sense, but I know that the vision was always that overall was going to be to base him much more in the time of the piece. We looked at some wonderful pictures of philosophers and artists of that period who just wore suits with a certain panache. And the beard was important because Jo always referenced it in the script, and also because it makes him somewhat unusual in this period context because not many men wore beards.
I really love corduroy, and I made this wide whale corduroy coat and beat it up and put it on him. It was a nod to that noir, for sure, the collar and the shape of the back of the coat. I was like, I don't know if the boys will go for it, but Jude just sold it in the room. At the end, everyone's like, I want a coat like that.
What's that?
A safe house in Paris.
Safe house? Why would I need a safe house in Paris?
I hope she won't, but should things at some point go terribly wrong, it's good to have a place to go. For
a cup of tea?
One of my favourite things about the new film is the beginning of the exploration into Newt and Dumbledore's relationship.
I think it's fair to say that Dumbledore recognised the brilliance in Newt and the good heart and the morally unbendable core of Newt as a man. Dumbledore can trust him implicitly, but Dumbledore's also a bit of a game player.
He still speaks in rhyme often and riddles, and he's still quite mercurial, and you're never quite sure exactly what he's asking you to do.
Very few people, if any, ever call Dumbledore on his Dumbledorishness. In other words, his withholding of information. And that is the interest for me in their relationship, because I want someone to call Dumbledore on it and I want to hear his answers.
With all due respect, Professor, I don't believe for a minute that's why you told me about the Thunderbird.
There is a master-apprentice relationship going on, but what happens throughout the film is Newt realises he's not only being manipulated by the Ministry, but he's also being manipulated by Dumbledore. There's a transparency that he demands because Newt is too wily to be exploited. That's where there becomes a level playing ground.
Can you destroy it?
Maybe.
It's not easy being Dumbledore. He's mistrusted by the Ministry. They know he has this dark past in which he flirted with Grindelwald's ideology. This was the part of Potter that I was most interested in revisiting, because the relationship between Grindelwald and Dumbledore is key to making Dumbledore Dumbledore.
They were both young men, and they had this idea of making the world better. And fundamentally, they've basically drifted apart because Dumbledore felt that what Grindelwald was advocating ultimately was wrong.
Their relationship was incredibly intense, it was passionate, and it was a love relationship. But as happens in any relationship, gay or straight or whatever label we want to put on it, one never knows really what the other person is feeling. You can't know. You can believe you know. So I'm less interested in the sexual side, though I believe there is a sexual dimension to this relationship, than I am in the sense of the emotions they felt for each other, which ultimately is the most fascinating thing about all human relationships.
I am positive that there was a mutual respect of one another's abilities, and I'm sure, especially with Grindelwald, there a jealousy, so maybe a bitterness for having such love and respect for Dumbledore.
So there are scenes in the movie where I was very conscious of wanting to try and suggest that Dumbledore still held this affection for Grindelwald. There was not just regret, but there was still a love that existed between the two men.
There's a sense of loneliness to him, terrible loneliness and isolation, where I think he's separated himself and almost imprisoned himself at Hogwarts. I can't move against Grindelwald. It has to be you.
At the end of this film, we discover that Credence is, in fact, Dumbledore's brother. You can see how important that is for both Grindelwald and for Dumbledore.
It's at the absolute heart of what the issue is between Dumbledore and Grindelwald.
This is a relationship that is compelling and profound and authentic, and alongside all the bells and whistles of adventure and fantasy and beasts and everything else, this is a story about these two men who loved each other and ultimately have to fight each other. It's a story for the 21st century.
Dumbledore really is a bridge between the Potter universe and the Beast universe.
And he's my favourite character in the whole series.
He is a character who hangs over this story in a very profound way and whose influence is very much felt.
Godlike though he sometimes appears, he earned that by going through what we're watching in these movies. There's a lot more to go with this character.
There's a certain responsibility. He's a much-loved character, and there are lots of details that people will want to see hinted at. So from many points of view, it's been a really wonderful opportunity.